really busy day and a really productive day. It's been another great signing day for us. And so in progress, I don't think that ever stops, but at least for the early part, again, we have an opportunity that for the 30 in a row sign top class in the conference. But first, before we get into that, I'd like to thank all the people that were involved in making that a reality. The staff itself, but besides the football staff, everyone in creative, compliance, strength and conditioning, recruiting, development, academics, the trainers, so many people on campus, catering. I mean, the amount of effort and time that goes into preparing everything from unofficial to official visits is really, it takes a lot of time and effort, and really grateful to have awesome people that really just bust their tails to make sure that we provide a first-class experience when people come to campus here. But again, that being said, obviously a busy time. So much talk about the class, but I'll leave that for questions to answer. And again, it's kind of continuing to grow and grow. We'll continue to grow through the second signing period, and of course, through the portal period strategically. So that being said, questions please.
Mario, I know we're here to talk about the class in the future, but I have to ask you about last night. And anybody can make an argument either way. I get that, I respect it, but the Louisville wins and the Duke win just seems like they were just discounted for you guys, just because they're not in the arbitrary top 25, whether they're 26 or 28 or 30, it seems to no longer matter. How have you processed everything you've heard in the last 20 hours, I guess, as far as the explanations as to why?
Yeah, sure. Still processing, you know, and there's confidence and trust that people will process and give consideration to what is real. You know, like you mentioned, there is a 28 and a 26 in there, and there's a reason they go all the way to 30 and 35 sometimes, and that was discounted or not really mentioned. Neither was a 4-2 road record against well-eligible teams as opposed to a 1-3 record. No one brought up the data points of the simplicity of watching film, right? Fourth quarter, you know, Alabama, South Florida, 21-16. Fourth quarter, 5 minutes left in the game, Miami and South Florida, different score, you know, or a crossover game with the SEC, which we know what that result was. So that and so many other things have come up, and hopefully things will continue to be reviewed and considered so that things can be done justly, because it's exponentially harder to win a 10th game during the season than there is, you know, an 8th, a 9th, whatnot. So, and winning, as we keep hearing, winning is important. So hopefully that'll be considered.
How's your balance today versus, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of questions from the guys on the 2024 team.
Mm-hmm.
What now? What do we do now?
There's not many questions. There aren't many questions. You know, we were disappointed with our last game, but we're disappointed because we've raised expectations at the University of Miami, and there's a lot to be proud of in the 10-win season, but we wanted 11 and beyond. And we're going to get a chance at 11 coming up in some way, shape, or form. And that's what the focus is on, you know, to accomplish something that hasn't been done in, I don't know, 24, 23 plus years. And not knowing, again, what Sunday may lead to. Again, because I'm very, I trust that, and I have confidence that things at the end will be viewed the way that they should be viewed, and who knows how that thing's going to work out.
You said last week that your goals are always top 5, top 10 recruiting classes, and depending on which survey you look at, right now you're sitting between like 12 and 14-ish. I know you have your own evaluations, and I'm sure you like the guys that you brought in, but just what got in the way, or what made it difficult to get that extra level?
Well, we chose not to sign, you know, in the 26, 27 range. I think that plays a huge role into it, because that's an accumulation of points as well. It is a top class in the conference right now, and we filled our needs with the high school ranks at the areas we feel we need high school players, and we're also looking at certain parts of our team that need portal players. So that's where the balance is.
And speaking of the portal, I know it hasn't opened yet officially. Just what are some of the, I know you want to upgrade it everywhere you can, but what are some of the target positions that you're looking at for portal upgrades?
Well, I'd love to fill you in on all that stuff, but strategically, it's something that we don't do. We keep airtight and we keep in-house. You know, we certainly don't want to allow our recruiting strategies to be assessed, analyzed, or used against us in any way, shape, or form. So I think it's important that we trust a process that has proven that's taken a team from 5 wins to 7 wins to 10 wins in a regular season, with a team that's competitive in every outing that we have had, and a future that is bright because we have recruited well at the high school level. You know, we're not a team that was strictly portal driven. We have really good high school players at every position that are developing and are doing well. And as you study the landscape of recruiting and just roster management, the portal is more active than ever, has been more active than ever. So you prepare to gain, you prepare to lose some, you prepare to move some on, you prepare to bring some in. But all in all, you make sure you're doing right by these young men and their families, and always doing right by the University of Miami and doing everything possible to continue elevating the program.
You've always had the reputation, going back to when you were on staff here, you know, a lifetime ago, that you've always been an accomplished recruiter. People have said that for a long time. At your other stops, they said the same thing, of course. How has it all just changed in the portal era? Like, is it as simple as just identify talent and go get it, or is it not that simple anymore?
No, it's not. I mean, there's money and there's access involved, and that changes everything, right? And you have the responsibility of being resourceful, and you know, sometimes it comes down to, I don't know, sometimes teams get outbid, you know, price points go to a certain range where that's become part of the game. I don't complain about that. It is what it is. It's different, it's completely different, but it certainly, it creates advantages for those that can supplement, you know, the recruiting efforts with certain resources, and then it hinders those that don't or can't or that won't. Relationships still play a key role in the whole thing, and then there's some, you know, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, and it's very different than it was first starting in this thing. And look, there's a lot of things that I don't love about the way things have gone in terms of football and the evolution of all these different things. But I love football more than I dislike all those other things. So we just pour into the things that are important to make sure that, again, we could do right by our guys and keep elevating the program. And so they can be better people and better future providers and fathers and husbands and members of society because of what they've done in our systems.
I guess what I meant to get in there was commitments are, I mean, the word commit is somewhat misleading because it is non-binding.
Right.
Does it kind of work the same way? I mean, guys always flip, you know, one way or another, you win, you lose, something it's happened forever and it's gonna keep happening. Do you find like it's a higher percentage of those commitments not really being solid in the NIL era?
Well, I know that when we got here 3 years ago, if I have this right, you guys might have this information. I believe there was a 5 to 6, 7 year span where there was, I think, 70 decommitments, that's a pretty high number. So we felt that one thing we had to do was, hey, we have to have minimum a 90% hit rate. I mean that if we're going to lock into a guy, they're going to lock in. That's what we're going to do. Now, locking in means the guy has to play to a certain level as the season goes on, do the right things on and off the field, and sometimes we have to move on. And sometimes you get a surprise call, and you know, you usually sense it when something's going on. So you try to keep obviously the ones that you want. It's a marathon. You go, and you keep those to the bare minimum you possibly can. Hopefully 0. If you have attrition of 1 or 2, you're probably on the upper tier in terms of retention of your commitments.
Speaking of guys who've been locked in, Luke Nickel, being the longest running commit in the class, never wavering like that. What do you like about him as a player, and what do you like about him having been like a kind of a leader in the class, I guess?
Well, I'd like to say a couple things about him. Offensive Player of the Year in Georgia, right? Goes to Elite 11 with a sprained ankle, absolutely lights it up. State champion, competing for another state title now. Top 100 guy, complete winner, and a great identification by Coach Dawson because he didn't have much attention. We brought him over here to camp, a lot like a guy like OJ Frederic, and he just lit it up, and he has like that moxie, that personality, that aura about him. Great leadership skills, hard worker, accurate, tough, can move. You saw a guy when he came down here and played against some of the South Florida teams. He's a real one, and you know what? When your quarterback hangs in there like that, it does a lot for the rest of the class.
I wanted to ask you about SJ as well. You know a little bit more about offensive line than most people, obviously. What is his potential, do you think, as he comes into that?
He's one of the best players I've seen in high school. And by that I mean explosive, like powerful, nasty. Nicest guy ever off the field, on the field, complete horror. I mean, just absolutely tries to rip you to shreds. Comes from an unbelievable program in Bishop Foreman, Elijah Lofton, was there as well. And I know he's ranked as high as top 10 player overall, the top 100. He's, I don't know how the services go, but he was always just like a Luka guy that, hey, he's a must-have guy. And great family, hard-working family, really physical, really, really smart, and he intends to come in here and make an impact. And the guys on the team know him. They've seen him a bunch. Obviously him and CC hit it off really, really well. So yeah, he does it all, man. He does it all, and can't wait to see him.
Can you just talk about the rest of the offensive line class so far? There are a bunch of big bodies, functional athletes. What do you like about that group?
Love the group because it's very versatile. Size, athleticism, power, explosiveness. I would say these guys are like what we look for in offensive linemen. The two real big guys, in Jaden and Demetrius, length, athleticism, almost like those ginormous power forwards that you find and make the transition over to football. They've got great balance and body control. They're heavy-handed. They move their feet well. They get their heels in the ground. Usually big guys kind of tip over. They're on the tips of their toes, and they have some ankle flexibility issues. Not these guys, And then moving on to Max Buchanan, just an absolute stud. Just a physical, nasty, versatile, right? Can play outside, can play inside. I mean, he does it all. The right temperament. These guys all hit it off really well, which is important for us because at that position in the secondary, those guys have to play as one, and these guys they're 100% our kind of guys. They are all about the culture that we've established here, and they are certainly going to be great players here.
Staying on the offensive side, Gerard Pringle was a guy, when Coach Merritt came down, kind of quickly identified him. Can you talk about that process of, Coach Merritt just kind of quickly offering him, getting him on board, and a ton of other stuff going on, just that whole process?
Credit to Coach Merritt here because when before he got here, he wasn't on the board. He had not been identified, and we had gotten big at running back and powerful, and we were looking for Jamar Gibbs type guy, and he brought Pringle to the table, and my God, did he blew everybody away. I know he might be the top rated guy in Florida. I don't know if he is or he isn't. He was on our board, like a lot like these other guys at their respective positions, always in the top 5. And Gerard Pringle was at the top of the board. His ability to just create separation, to catch the football, to make guys miss in space. His vertical is insane. He's a guy that came to camp even after he was committed and participated just because he wanted to get coached. He wanted hands-on instruction. And what an unbelievable response by him. Just took every detail, put it to good use. And my God, is he fast. I believe his best time last year, I believe he hit 10.48, 10.5 in the 100 meter. And the sky's the limit for him. That body's just starting to change and taking a strength and conditioning. We expect him to be an outstanding addition to the Miami Hurricanes.
What's the role of strength and conditioning in the evaluation process? Because, some kids, they're done growing height-wise at 15, some at 17, and some have another spurt after they get here. Even how hard is it to identify for that part to be identified? This is what the young man can become if we do X, Y, Z.
Well, I mean, we actually have some software that tries to predict that, size and growth potential. Yeah, you don't fat it on the staff. They don't have bright futures. Some of those guys, they're going to be really big. But no, for some of these, we use that software. But at the same time, you also trust your eyes. You look at family history. You look at relatives. You look at their habits as well. And then you start analyzing. Okay, the world we live in, the trenches. You've got to have thick, powerful features. A guy like Francis Marino, he's got the highest bone density and muscle density of any lineman in the history of the University of Miami. So his success and his durability is not by accident. These guys fall along those same lines, maybe not at that level in terms of hitting those benchmarks, those numbers and specs, but all these guys have that. And at certain positions, you look for more length than actual height, just because they have to cover a lot of space. Defensive ends, edge players, right? Safeties, rangy guys. So catch radius for wide receivers or whatnot. So sometimes you look for the broad and thick parts that go with a certain position, sometimes the length and the vertical part of it.
You go to the Big Ten country, you get two tight ends, two different, skill sets. Can you talk about those guys, how they maybe complement one another and how they can each help you?
Yeah, those guys were, again, top of the board guys for us. Obviously with Brock Schott, just a really unique, versatile athlete, does it all. Actually plays defense for his school as well, and I don't know, he had a ton of sacks, a ton of production, quarterback hurries and pressures or whatnot, but his ability to separate, escape, be powerful at the line of scrimmage, be physical, and yet just make the contested catch, become a matchup nightmare for opponents it's been really unique, I kid him all the time because I went to see him last January when it was complete frozen tundra and snow and sideways, and we got there in a helicopter, and it, not the best experience, but we mentioned to him, man, you better be good, if we're coming all the way out here like this, and he is not disappointed. We can't wait to see him, heavily pursued by the entire country, absolute stud. And Luka, the same thing. People, I think, didn't realize what a great athlete Luka Gilbert has been his entire career, because he's 6'7", so you automatically assume, well, he's a line of scrimmage guy and whatnot. No, sir. This guy's athletic and versatile, and he is fast and explosive. He can go up and get it, high point balls. He's very loose hip, so he gets in and out of breaks really well, creates separation also. Just naturally explosive, fast, and athletic. And both these guys, just exceptional human beings, really, really smart, really excited to be Miami Hurricanes. Like, these guys wanted to be here. And they were pursued by just about everybody in the country, so very, very blessed to have them as part of this class.
Mario, in the old days, you would just get a recruit, you develop them, and he'd be here for 4 or 5 years. Is the new philosophy for you, I don't know if you've been asked this before, is it a mixture always of portal and recruits, or ultimately you want to go back to that, hey, let's just get a ton of great recruits in development and here for a bunch of years?
You'd like to say it's set in stone this way, but I don't think it's ever going to be that way again, because you just don't know, God forbid there's a slew of injuries or, like you said, a bunch of departures, You'd love for the old way to still be the, something that really truly exists at a higher level now, because that word development it's a beautiful word, but nowadays it's treated as almost a nasty word, because development takes time. But we like that. Like, when you look at the guys on here, of course they all want to play now, but they also have to be bought into development, right? Because when we arrived here, there was plenty of room to go and play right away. We had to fill a ton of holes. Every year you got to fill holes, but as your roster gets better and better, you have to be more bought into development, knowing, what, there's other good players there too, and competition is a good thing. I want to be part of that. Our players have really, they've been very open in their recruiting processes, how they were told the truth and how these guys are being told the truth. Therefore, there's a relationship there. So recruiting is more of a welcome thing than a threat. It's not something that all of a sudden is going to be a surprise or something that's going to be frowned upon. So I think it's critically important, like you mentioned, and I think when you recruit at the high school level, you've got to be very clear as to what that process is going to be like, what those steps are going to be like, because if you really want the best out of a player, they have to buy into development. Look what Elijah Arroyo is right now, right? I heard when he arrived he was about 210 pounds or something of that nature. Well, look at him now. So I think those things are just one example of them.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that some of these kids are a few days away from arrival. It's kind of wild on that front. What kind of an edge does that give? I mean, not every kid is in a position where I guess some kids just can't come in January, but what sort of an edge does that give? Just in terms of that development and identifying the fine details of this is what's going to make or break you in 25 to 26. How important is it to just get them here and get them going?
Yeah, it's critically important, especially ones that need maybe more repetitions, or maybe if their high school program doesn't reflect the principles of the college regimen, they need it in a big time way. But I mean, all these guys come from great high schools and have had great mentors and teachers, and quite frankly, I believe there's going to be 19, maybe more guys, not counting some of the additions we may have in the next couple of days, that will be here in January. That's the norm now, That isn't, before it was like, man, we got 3 guys coming in January. Now the norm is you want to get 20 plus guys in there, and if you can, get all 30, 35 players in, right? Because that allows your players to really start to, now when you refer to all the work you've done since January, you're talking to the entire team, not just the guys that were here and the other half that got here later. So it is, we push for it, and especially academically, because if you can get your diploma in 3 years flat, you've got some great options, once you complete that process.
Kellen Wiley being the most recent guy to join the class and earlier today, what did you like about him and what was the, recruiting process? What can you tell us about that when that went down to today?
Well, when they played here in late August, early September, they were playing a game down there against a local high school. Our phones were getting blown up. Everybody's like, you've got to see this guy, complete monster. He's knocking people out left and right. And the film didn't disappoint, and he was like meteor, right? I mean, he just shot to the top of the boards all over the country and became a really highly ranked guy. But we established a relationship, or the beginning of a relationship there. And certainly having Gerard Pringle at the same school helped a bunch. Those guys are really tight. They want to be roommates, they said. You probably don't realize how messy they both are, but for now they want to be roommates, and they respect each other as great players. Like Pringle is an absolute, he's a monster on offense. Those guys got to face each other every single day for the last few years, and that type of relationship, to be able to do that, I was able to do that in college with a couple of high school teammates. It's awesome. So we're very fortunate to have him joining Zeke. Ezekiel Marshland right down the road here at Miami Central has been one of the best players in Dade County for the last couple of years.
And speaking of Miami Central, the trio of South Florida defensive backs you guys signed, Ewald, Wallace, and Fitzgerald. What do you like about them? And then also with Jabari Antoine? Everything. Those guys are awesome. Obviously, we need to fortify our secondary. It's a big point of emphasis, and we're going to keep hunting down possibilities there. But talking about those guys, I mean, we've known, CJ, Chris Ewald, for a long, long time now, and has always been one of the best players, not only in South Florida and Florida, but in the country. A dynamic man-to-man cover guy that we need here so desperately. Awesome family, just incredible. Jabari Antoine, I was probably the one that everybody was really fearful of. Hey man, that guy's gonna stick, and then everyone tried. Everyone tried to get him to flip and to stay back, and it's kind of neat because he's in those 7-on-7 circuits, and that's a guy that my sons follow all the time. It's like, man, if we can get anyone off these teams, we really want that guy, Pops, and man, what an unbelievably just pleasant, polite young man, and then on the field just hits a switch, plays quarterback, goes out in secondary, safety, corner, another just highly skilled man-to-man guy, does it all. Mario Wallace, shame that his season got cut short because of his injury, because he was one of the best safeties in the country. And he's almost completely healed. I told him he's healing up just in time to join us for practice, which is perfect. Awesome family as well. All these guys have incredible families. So really looking forward to working with him. It's been a long time since he's put on pads, and it means a lot to him. And then Bryce Fitzgerald ends up at Columbus High School, where I went to school, and he's been a do everything kind of guy for them. Offense, defense, special teams, has scored in every single possible way you can touch the football. Man-to-man coverage, play safety. We had him in camp, did some corners work with him as well. Mom, Miss Ashley, just awesome young lady. Obviously a lot of family ties there to people that we know, and just a dynamic guy and a great human being. So I think all those guys, they have relationships, they have ties, they're hard workers. They're gonna have to work really, really hard, and they know it, and we welcome it because we certainly need help in the secondary.
How long have your sons been able to identify talent?
School that you're familiar with.
How long have your sons been able to identify talent?
I mean, they've been sitting at the computer with me since I can remember, and they, you never want to force a ball on them, but it just happens naturally. They're all about it, every ounce. I mean, they'll wake up in the middle of the night, they'll find me downstairs in an office and watching stuff. They'll sit there and they'll tell me their thoughts. They think they're general managers already and all that stuff, but it's pretty cool. It's you rarely spend time with your family when you're coaching, and that's part of it. So it's kind of cool when they get involved and do stuff like that. I take them to games now whenever I get a chance.
What you doing in Southern California, a school that you're familiar with, in Coast Christian.
Oh, yeah.
Just talk about the process of, a few years ago getting Kayvon Thibodeau out of there, and going back, being able to snag another guy, a top player from Southern California, bringing him over here to the East Coast. Just how special is that to be able to, kind of get back into the school here? So
Yeah. First time I went there was 2017-18 for Kayvon Thibodeau, you know. Coach Collins, who is, you know, Coach Collins is like the wide receiver guru teacher out there, besides being the head coach, you know, at Oaks. And first time out there, you could tell that program was just run the right way. Great athletes, but discipline, toughness, great players. And so yeah, as it be, you know, all these years later to go back there and recruit a dynamic, just elite player like Hayden Lowe, who you've seen him, and I think you've seen him in person, 6'4 plus, 245, 250 pounds, young, so he's still growing, incredible family, hardworking. And I told him from the beginning, I'm not gonna make any comparisons to Kayvon Thibodeau. You're being recruited independently of any association with that. But man, you can't help but look at that film and think of all the great players that have played that position, because he is that type of player. He is elite in so many different ways, with speed, power, you know, his ability to bend, come off the edge, go speed to power, turn that into spin moves, counter moves. He's off the charts, you know. And it's kind of neat. He's complimented on the other side by we call him third, Herbert Scroggins, the third, who just broke the sack state record in Georgia. Another just high motor, explosive, twitch, powerful edge player that is made of the right stuff. Awesome family. All these guys come from incredible families, man, but they have high motors and they love football. They want to get to the University of Miami. They have a love for the University of Miami. They are going to be, man, they're going to be great for the coaches to have a chance to work with.
Coach, we've spoken about wide receivers yet. Can you talk about Josh Moore and Dalen Upshaw and what those guys bring to the table?
Yeah, Josh, as we know, that he's been a target for a long time. So it was important that we found a way to get him to flip on over to us. And we had seen him play. I had seen him play before on film, but when he came over here in 23, and he was out there playing in that 7-on-7, it was, you always think of Megatron, right? When you see a ginormous receiver with speed and that type of ability to just go over the top of people, just ginormous catch radius. But he was just taking over the tournament, you know. And when he had committed somewhere else, it was like, man, we've got to go and get that. That's the one, you know. That's the big outside receiver that we got to go find, that we got to go get. And as so be it, you know, he ends up having an incredible season both on offense and on defense. Jumps back there on safety, pick sixes, doing it. He does everything for his team. There's nothing that he wouldn't do for his team. And another guy, again, these parents, I mean, I know I mention them all the time, but we spend a lot of time around them and all their families. And his family, his parents, incredible people. They've raised an awesome young man. Awesome to have him here. Dalen Upshaw, you know, going deep into that state, that's hard, you know, it's difficult. But he popped right away. There weren't many guys, they're playing inside and outside, that were guys that popped, guys that can fit what we need to do. Coach Dawson's offense, if you studied over the years, that position has to be very versatile. Xavier Restrepo just proved that, right? Tank, I forget what Tank does. Tank Dell at Houston proved that as well, and Dalen possesses all those qualities and more. And a guy that, again, comes from a state champion, trying to repeat as a state champion as well. Great family, tremendous upside, speed, explosiveness, same thing. You know, we need speed. We need guys that can stretch the field, but that have enough wiggle to make things happen as well.
Coach, we can wrap the press conference. We can talk about our third wide receiver signing.
Awesome, another great one. Malachi Tony, you know, who joins the class and who's reclassified to join the class. And I don't think people have appreciated his ability until they've seen him the last couple of weeks, when the quarterback went down at Heritage and he stepped in there at quarterback and did it all. Did everything you can ask a quarterback to do, let alone a receiver that jumped over at quarterback and took over. Wiggle, speed, power, explosiveness, all the qualities look in a wide receiver. Super competitive, can make the contested catch. Awesome family, awesome mom, local guy. You know, you want to keep your best local players home. He reclassified, so he's a little bit young, but not really, right? Because when you play football down here in South Florida, you grow up really fast. So awesome to have him on board and to be able to announce him as part of the class.
Great.
Outside of,
That's the last question.
outside of family,
And Dante, don't forget Dante Simpson and you know, Micah Newton, man. There's all these guys deserve, you know, some kind of love because I mean, we love them. These are hand-picked, hand-selected guys. I'm sorry to cut you off there. I want to make sure we got everybody on there. I think we did. But if not, I'm sure I'll get a phone call later, but I think we got everybody, but both Micah Newton, tremendous upside. You got to watch this film. Please do that. High energy, explosive interior guy, really good speed of power guy as well. Great bull rush, flat back. Dante Simpson, he was a find. He was committed to, I believe it was Maryland. We're like, whoa, what a big guy, locally committed to another school. Brought him to camp and said, you know what, we need to do a better job. And got on him right away. And luckily for us, you know, he likes Miami and he flipped to us. But again, we're thrilled about these guys. You know, it's a smaller class, and we're okay with that. Those are the ones that we felt were the right ones for us. Got on most of the ones we wanted, missed on a couple, had an addition late, lost a couple guys the last day, but overall, really good signing day for us.
outside of family, stuff that matters, like stuff that really matters in the world.
Yeah.
Does anything get you going more than recruiting? Because I haven't seen you like this in a long time, talking about the next opponent.
Well, I mean, it's you know, the University of Miami. It's everything, man. You know, I don't know. I mean, there's really not much else to say. This has been a life's journey that's just beginning. Love the progress, you know, and a lot of things. You know, fired up, disappointed, pissed off, ready to go again, ready for the next one. It just doesn't stop, and it, you know. I don't talk much about that. It just ain't gonna stop. I mean, that's why I came back. We got work to do, and we're excited to do it, brother.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Okay, guys?